Eddie Miller. Let's welcome Eddie.
Well, thanks. I've never been here, I don't think, at this time of year before, because I don't think Jerry's ever been gone at this time of year before. So he's trying out the holidays, being gone, whatever. I don't know how that's working for him. But anyway, it is Thanksgiving weekend. Did Jerry preach on Thanksgiving last week? That's good. I'm gonna visit it in a slightly different way today. But I just thought, when we think about Thanksgiving, mostly we think about food, don't we? I mean, when it comes right down to it at the Miller household, it's like a 3-day production to get ready for that one meal. And then it's about a 4-day ordeal to get rid of all that stuff after we've cooked it. We've tried leftover recipes and none of them are that good. Anyway, but I do hold back a few things that I really like and try to hide it from the grandkids. So thinking about being thankful, I picked these up off the internet, so they must be true, right? Because everything that's on the internet is always true. So here's one, being truly thankful. 2 men were walking through a field one day when they spotted an enraged bull. Instantly, they darted toward the nearest fence. The storming bull followed in hot pursuit, and it was soon apparent they wouldn't make it to the fence. Terrified, the one shouted to the other, "Put up a prayer, John. We're in for it." John answered, "I can't. I've never made a public prayer in my life." I knew that guy. The other fellow said, "But you must. The bull is catching up to us." "All right," panted John. "I'll say the only prayer I know, the one my father used to repeat at the table. O Lord, for what we are about to receive, make us truly thankful." Now, there are a lot of times that we use the word turkey in a non-positive way. We might say of a person that we're kind of not happy with at the moment, we might even call them a turkey. But turkey is big business here in the United States of America. 1995 information I'm holding in my hot little hand from the home office in Fernley, Nevada, says that in the United States, turkey is a $2.67 billion with a B dollar business annually. See, and you thought it was crazy to raise turkeys, right? But apparently not. In the United States, here's a question for you. In the United States, what's the ratio of white meat to dark meat lovers? 2 to 1. 75, 25, 10 to 1. Believe it or not, it's just 2 to 1. Not at my house. The front end of the turkey disappears almost by itself. The back end hangs around for a long time. The average American eats 18.3 pounds of turkey per year. Seems a little high, doesn't it? It is. I'm assuming it's not all like on Thanksgiving weekend. If it is, that could be explained why so many people didn't show from this section over here. They ate too much. Politically correct. I'm always very careful to be politically correct. Those of you that know me know that's true. So I thought this one was good. Heard about a 4th grader who stood up to give a report concerning the origins of Thanksgiving holiday. Here's how he began. The Pilgrims came here seeking freedom of you-know-what. When they landed, they gave thanks to you-know-who. Because of them, we can worship each Sunday you-know-where. Sad, kind of, isn't it? Thanksgiving Day in the United States began in 1621. In 1620, The Mayflower and its attendant personnel landed somewhere near but not exactly on Plymouth Rock. They came off the boat, they looked around, and they figured out something. They had booked passage a little late in the year. They landed and actually had a camp of sorts set up by late November, early December, and we're talking about in the northeastern part of our country. If you're going to go camping in the northeastern part of the United States of America, probably December's not one of the best months to pick. They got off the boat, they looked around, they said, this is great, we'll make it here fine, but we're going to stay on the boat for the winter. A lot of people didn't make the winter through. When they came off the boat in the spring, by that time the Indians had befriended them, and they got just enough information and just enough stuff going that they actually lived. And in the fall of the next year, they had their first Thanksgiving. It lasted 3 days, and the Pilgrims feasted on wild turkey and venison with their Indian guests. And by the way, the Indians brought most of the meat. They did have a fowling event that took care of most of the birds, but there were, I believe, 7 deer brought to the event by the... And no, I was not there. I didn't just lose count. I can't remember exactly. Days of Thanksgiving were celebrated sporadically until November the 26th, 1789, when President Washington issued a proclamation of a nationwide day of Thanksgiving. He made it clear the day should be one of prayer and giving thanks to God. It was to be celebrated by all religious denominations, a circumstance that helped to promote a spirit of common heritage. The revisionist historians tell us that Washington was a deist. They're just wrong. And I have the proclamation, if you'd like to read it. I have the entire proclamation from that 1789. Credit for the establishing the day as a national holiday is usually given to Sarah J. Hale. Men, you are not invited to the tea. Just live with it. If you really want anything done, get a woman upset about it. That's exactly how you get things done in this world, my experience. Now, I know my experience is limited, and some of you may have a better observation, but you just think about what needs to get done, what must get done. Sarah Hale decided it must happen. She started a campaign, and by the time Abraham Lincoln was in office, the day had been established as a national holiday. The last Thursday of November. That began in 1863. Every year after that, succeeding presidents re-upped. And in 1939, Thanksgiving Day was placed on the 4th Thursday of Thanksgiving. 1939. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Any idea why? He was ahead of his time. He predicted Black Friday before it was even thought of. Apparently in 1939, I meant to check this on a calendar, but I didn't. Apparently in 1939, there were 5 Thursdays in November. And he switched it to the 4th Thursday to extend the holiday shopping season. Doesn't that just warm the cockles of your heart? So anyway, there you go. 1941, Congress adopted a joint resolution setting the date on the 4th Thursday of November. Thanksgiving. Today we face an uncertain approach to what Thanksgiving was 3 days ago. Because today we live in a country and in a world where a vast majority of the people seem to be confused about who it is we are thanking and what it is we are being thankful for. Now, I'm the first to tell you that most of us are doing way better than we deserve to do. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I know that I have great, great blessings that I ought to always be thankful for. I recognize that the family that I have, the stuff that I have, the life that I have is all there because God has given it to me. I have not earned it. I have worked, but I have not earned it. He has given it to me for no good reason. Thanksgiving. I just spent 2 days in the truck and in the cold with two of my grandsons. They drew deer tags down, youth deer tags down in Area 21, and not to fear. We didn't kill nothing. We didn't see nothing. I found tracks in 4 or 5 different places in that entire county. Esmeralda County is a hunt area 21, 211, 212, and 213. And I'll tell you, there's deer there, but not many. And they weren't any place where I was in these last couple of days. But we were driving somewhere in that 500-mile trek that we made from Fernley and back around to Fernley. And one of the boys said to me, isn't it interesting that we have Black Friday where everybody goes out and expresses their opposite of Thanksgiving, whatever that is. The day after, we've been thankful. I said, You don't have to be that old to be paying attention, I guess. What are we thankful for? And who are we thankful to? And how should we be thankful? The church is in a unique position to lead the way. We have the greatest opportunity because we have the truth. To be thankful. What does it mean? It means that it changes not just one day out of the year, but it changes our entire life experience. If you have your Bibles, I'd like to ask you to turn with me to Philippians chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4. Paul writes to the church of Philippi. It is a unique church in many ways. Of all the churches that Paul planted, this was the first planted in Europe. This is the first church where Paul crossed to the west and headed the gospel in this direction. I think as many times as I have preached here, I've said something about that. There was a little prayer meeting that Paul and his fellows had in Troas, on the other side of a pretty good little chunk of water. And they prayed, and the next morning, Paul got them up, and they headed for Macedonia. Philippi was a city in Macedonia. It was the first city that they came to when they got to Europe. And Paul's normal pattern was to go to the synagogue. There wasn't a synagogue in Philippi. And so he went out to a prayer meeting alongside the river. It was a ladies' prayer meeting. They probably had tea. But this church became a key congregation in Paul's ministry. It was the church that most often, most significantly, most steadily supported his ministry. You got to remember, in those days, we didn't have any mission boards. We didn't have any. You just went out to do what you felt like God had called you to do. And most of us know that Paul actually had a side business besides being a missionary. He was a tent maker. He was a sewer of hides, a tanner of leather. And that's how he funded most of his operation. But he had a few churches, like Philippi, that sent encouraging words, encouraging people, and encouraging support, financial. So Paul writes to this church that in some ways knows him best. They have watched him in his ministry. They have supported him in his ministry. They know that he is in jail right now. And they know that they are responsible for him still after all these years. And Paul writes to this church in chapter 4, verse 1. Therefore, my beloved brethren, interesting, since they were all sistering when he found them to start with, whom I long to see my joy and crown, in this way stand firm in the Lord, my beloved. I urge Euodia and Syntyche to live in harmony in the Lord. Indeed, true companion, I ask you also to help these women who have shared my struggle in the cause of the gospel, together with Clement also and the rest of my fellow workers whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your gentle spirit be known to all men. The Lord is near. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is anything of excellence, if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Thanksgiving should be a normal part of our experience. We ought to be seeing, perceiving, understanding the blessings that God gives to us on a daily basis, and we ought to thank Him a whole lot. You see, the thing with the church at Philippi is they were a great church. They stayed with Paul. They supported Paul. They encouraged Paul. They hosted him anytime that he came into the region. And Paul is trying to encourage them to be the people of God where they were. He says when we think about the long haul, when we think about life in our service to Christ, the one thing we must understand is that we are not in a sprint. We are in a marathon. And Paul says we need to run that race in a certain way. He says in another place that we need to run the race so that we might win. But Paul writes to the church at Philippi, pretty good church, but not perfect. There's a little problem. Now I know that Calvary Baptist Church in Dayton, over their long and storied history, has never had a problem. But they had one here in Philippi. Paul says, my beloved brethren, whom I long to see, my joy and crown. In this way stand firm in the Lord, my beloved. And then he says, I urge Euodia and Syntyche to live in harmony in the Lord. Now, Americans are really the best at formulating their own opinion, or at least they used to be. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've lost some of our skill in formulating our opinions anymore. Sometimes we leave it to somebody sitting behind a desk with a microphone and a talking head, you know, or we get our opinions from other places than we used to. But it used to be that Americans formed their own opinions. You know what happens when people have opinions? They don't always agree with each other on, well, pick a subject. It doesn't really matter. There are people that will fight me over what I read off the internet, and I know it's true because it was on the internet, about how Thanksgiving got started. There are people that will tell me that the first president of the United States of America, George Washington, was a deist. But that's not what it says. We all have opinions. Now let me give you an idea of what I think is going on with this Euodia and Syntyche people. Number one, they have an opinion about something. It might be, what color should we put in new carpet in the sanctuary? But they probably didn't have carpet in those days. Maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe they were going to try to decide which side to set the piano on and which side to put the organ on. Or where do you hang the projector? Because projectors now are more important than instruments. You can see that almost everywhere you go. No, didn't have any of that. But there was something that they disagreed about. Now, I don't want to cause any trouble. But my guess is that if enough of you spend enough time thinking right where you're sitting, and some of you are doing that right now thinking, why did Jerry call this moron to come and preach? But if you began to think about it, you could think of somebody maybe sitting in this room that you had a pretty significant difference of opinion with. Guess what? I pronounce you normal. You know, there's an old saying that says if you get 10 Baptists in a room, you'll have 13 opinions present on any one subject. And so sometimes when we think that somebody needs to absolutely, totally agree with us on something, we really may just be kind of overstating it. How important is it that we all agree on minutia out there somewhere? Yes, but preacher, this is about what year was Samuel born. I'll settle that tonight. If that's your concern, I will fix that tonight. We're going to talk about change, by the way, tonight. So that's a commercial for the 12 of you that'll show back up this evening. Paul says, I urge you to live in harmony in the Lord. What is harmony? Harmony is a musical term. It has to do with the placement of notes and such as that. For example, on this piano, there are 88 keys. If you play them all together, that doesn't qualify as harmony, does it? That's 4 notes. No harmony. 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 but none the same. We don't live in harmony because we are absolutely single-minded. That we think exactly the same on everything. In fact, Paul talks about the giftedness of the church addressing not our sameness, but our differences. He says that He has gifted each of us in the church to have a certain gift, not the same gift for everybody. Harmony is when differences work together. That we live a life of harmony. I've worked with Southern Baptists. I've been a Southern Baptist all my life. I went to a Southern Baptist church 9.5 months before I was born. I have always been a Southern Baptist. And you know what Southern Baptists are known for? Food is big, yeah, it is. It is. But you know the Assembly of God think they got that too. You know, and the Methodists think they got that. But because they think that well, I'm not going to tell all those jokes that go with that. I gotta go. But what Southern Baptists really are known for is there's a lot of us, and we just fight about everything. Now, some say that that's because the roots of the Baptists, as we know them, came out of the Scotch-Irish immigrants that came to the U.S. and started heading west, and of which I am a result. Some say that it's just because we let everybody just kind of figure it out for themselves. No, we say it's your responsibility to figure it out yourself. You, and this book, and the Holy Spirit, and that's it. Now, it's a good idea to get other people's opinion. It's a good idea not to let your opinion get so far away from the mainstream of opinion that you cannot find the yellow brick road back. But you need to know what you believe. Not because your preacher believes it, or because your Sunday school teacher believed it, but because you believe it. But Paul says, I urge you to live in harmony. And he says, these women have struggled in the cause of the gospel. They have shared my struggle. These are good people. They have a difference of opinion on something. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Do you know why a lot of people don't want to go to church? I mean, let's just be honest. Why do a lot of people not want to go to church? One reason is they've already been. They didn't go good. They got somewhere and things didn't make any sense to them. They didn't quite figure it out. They couldn't, or there was something going on. Now, I grew up, like I said, in the Baptist church. When I was a senior in high school, we started a little process to have an area-wide evangelistic crusade. Youth-led area-wide evangelistic crusade. It was the craziest idea any of them had ever had. We packed out the local high school gym for 5 nights. They said we couldn't do it. Oh boy, we did it. We had over 100 conversions every evening. We had over 200 decisions every evening. God just showed up. And it wasn't because we knew what we were doing. It was because God had a plan. People don't go to church sometimes because they can't figure out what goes on here. Because if you look at us when we come in, Sunday morning, got our Bibles. Everybody seems to be sort of happy as long as they got their cup of coffee or whatever it is they have to get to where they were at that moment. But when they come out, they're like anxious to get away. I was concerned a while ago because I thought we didn't get started on time. And I'm pretty certain I'm going to get the blame for quitting too late. I don't think that we ought to be stupid, happy, plastered smiles on our face all the time. But I do think we ought to have a deep sense of joy that God is carrying us through. We don't even know to where all the time, but He is carrying us through. That in the good times and in the bad times, in the times when we're together and in the times when we're a little bit crosswise with one another, He is still there, and He is still giving us this irreplaceable, unimaginable joy because we know ultimately where we're headed. We're going home. The hope of the Christian faith is a place called heaven. It is as real as Dayton, Nevada, for a certain fact. The difference being, it is eternal, and Dayton is not. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let me hurry. Be anxious. Let your gentle spirit be known to all men. Gentleness. I got 2 horses in my field that I feed. One of which I'm still trying to figure out why I feed. But I feed him. One of them is a 22, 23-year-old Mustang. He's bay. He's got some draft stock in him. He's got a foot about that big. He's just a little guy as far as height is concerned. But son, he has got the bone, if you know what I mean. He was the original big-boned horse. He's this tall. His knees are that big and they're not swollen. I mean, he's just a lot of bone, and not exactly fast. Not really exactly one of life's volunteers. As a matter of fact, he pushed his way through the fence the other day where a branch had fell after the big snow and knocked my fence partially down. And he was patient enough to go up there and pick his way through and get on the other side of the fence. I didn't get a notice on that. Nobody texted me. There was no email. I didn't find out anything about it. Kathy and I get up. We're going to have a big day at our house cooking. And wasn't it cooking? What day was that? It was this last week. I drive up to the end of the lane where I live, and I look down the road to my left, and I saw him, but I didn't think about it. And I looked back to my right, and then I looked at Kathy and I said, I think I've got a horse out. Then I looked back around there, and sure enough, he was not a figment of my imagination. He was out. He was in the neighbor's orchard. Yeah, that's it. But at least he was still behind the fence. He wasn't on the road. And so I go and I find a hole in the fence, and then I take the feed bucket and the halter, and I go to try to catch Jake. That's his name. So I'm out there with my feed bucket and my rope, and my rope's behind my back. And I'm shaking the rope. And I get up just about to you. And I'm just that, and I can't get any closer. And I kind of get him over in a corner, and the neighbor kids are talking to me. Hey, how you doing? Is that Jake? Yeah, that's Jake. That's wonderful. And this little guy's about this tall, and he's adorable. And so I talk to the kid, and the horse is looking at me like, I'm going to get away. I'm going to get away. So he's easing over here toward the fence, getting a little further from me all the time, and he's going to make a break for it. Now, on a good day, I can almost run with him. He is slow, you know. I mean, if you really got out there and needed to catch like a calf or something and you were riding Jake, just get off and run. You got a better chance than if you're on the, he is not. No, he took off. Phew. And then he's back over here in the other corner. And then he tries to break the fence down kind of close to where he broke it down and out. And I'm sitting there watching him thinking, I ought to shoot you. But I didn't. So I go back down and I have this other horse. He's a 7-year-old appendix core horse. He is an own son of My Dash for Cash, which if you know anything about quarter horse breeding, that's a fast quarter horse. He is bred to a Gambler thoroughbred mare. That's his mama. And I'm here to tell you this boy at 16-1 is quick. He's the fastest in 2 jumps of any big horse I've ever been on and almost off of over my first experience with that. He can run like the wind. But you know how I catch him? I take the rope and the halter and I walk out in the field toward him. And somewhere about the time I get within somewhere around the size of this building, he'll see me and he'll turn and look at me. And I will say, come here. And sometimes he'll take a step or two and stop. And sometimes he'll just walk right up to me. And he holds his head down because 16-1, you know, his head is over here if it wants to be. Gentle. Let your gentle spirit. You can be hot-blooded. You can have the gift of speed. You can do anything athletically that you need to do, spiritually that you need to do. But you can be gentle while you're doing it. I really am hurrying. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, in prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God. What's the world looking for today? Number 1 on the hit parade, peace. The only time we ever vary from that even a little is if things get too good. But when life is normal, the thing that binds most humans together is our desire for peace. And Paul said, be gentle. Let your gentleness be known to all. When you're struggling, when you've got a problem, just tell the Lord. Be thankful that you know He's going to do something, but be thankful for what He's already done and just thank the Lord. And the peace of God, which passes all comprehension, will guard your heart and your mind. My wish for you in this Thanksgiving season is that you would be at peace. That your life would be buoyed up by the grace of God. And that you would know beyond any doubt that God is taking care of you. That you would live with each other for the cause of Christ. And that you would be known for your gentleness. Let's pray. Lord, on this Thanksgiving weekend, as we go home to face those leftovers again, give us a heart of thanksgiving, an attitude of peace, and a gentleness that will draw people to us, to you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, I think, have we got one more song? Huh?
What happened to Jake?
Oh, Jake, I caught him. I cornered him in the neighbor's backyard in a pile of junk. My neighborhood's not, we don't have any homeowners association or anything. And so there's a stack of hay, and he went to the stack of hay, and he was down there, and then I got down there and slipped around him. I had the other horse in tow to try to maybe, it didn't work. But so I handed that horse to the neighbor and said, now he's a little hot. Because once he gets caught, he wants to be saddled and rode. I mean, like, hard. I don't know what I'm doing with him. But I caught Jake in the junk pile. Yes, I did. I got him in a corner. He's looking at me. He's looking around. He thinks, "Dad, gum, I got caught again." But I put him back in the field. He's still there. Everything's good. Jake is still alive. I didn't kill him.